Thank you for tuning in to Nightcap with Whitney Rye. This is a fun new spinoff of the Mashable podcast. Obviously, I am here at the Bourbon Festival headquarters, and I am sitting next to Randy. So, Randy, why don't you take a second and tell everybody who you are?
Hey there. I am Randy Prasse. I've been the president of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival since January of 2020, and these last 5+ years have been tremendous in the changing of the festival and the growth and the support and the interest. People like you. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Me too. This is so much fun for me.
And we get to drink.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Day drinking.
so we're drinking Angel's Envy, right? So tell me a little bit about like what you wanted to highlight Angel's Envy specifically.
Well, in Angel's Envy, just real briefly, was a funny story. Years ago, when Wes Henderson was still with them, he did not like the Bourbon Festival. And he once rented this whole space out Bourbon Festival weekend and had his own party. And so when I finally got to meet him, I said, that was really kind of a, move. I said, I respect it. But he said if we made even a quarter of the changes that we announced that we were going to make in that first year, that we should consider them back as a supporter. So true to his word, they came back and they've been with us ever since. And this year they're the featured distillery. So we do barrel picks, and one of their barrels is going to be available for sale at the Bourbon Festival this year.
That's a pretty darn good bottle too.
It is.
And
it's all good.
To try that one.
I mean, when we did our announcement with WDRB, the morning we went on sale, we were there in their gift shop and we opened a few bottles. And I mean, Owen is just doing amazing stuff. I mean, it was already good, but I think what he's brought, the innovation, the brand has transformed almost as much as we have, so it's always good to see. But they're dear friends. They've been big supporters. They're doing some really cool stuff this year at the festival, and really excited to have them, especially given the history. So
you won them over. You got them back.
There's several of those over the years, distilleries that were not happy with the way the festival was going, and then now they're here, and a couple of them are actually on my board of directors. They've gone from not wanting anything to do to wanting to be a part of shaping the future. So
well, you guys have made a lot of changes over the last 5 years, and so like the way that the festival used to be, right? I'm a Bardstown native, totally understand. It was a big party and it was great for locals, but I think now it's great for bourbon connoisseurs, which is very important note. And obviously I'm a local, so I still get to go. I just had to get in there really, really fast to get my ticket. I think it was like 4 minutes into tickets being on sale. So yeah, it was crazy. But let's talk a little bit about like the changes that are coming this year. So I've been every year since you took over, by the way.
Thank you.
Kudos. It's been amazing. So what can we expect this year for the Bourbon Festival?
So anybody who went last year, one of the things that it was a problem for me, and evidently only me for the most part, was the lines. I was here in the office, third floor overlooking the festival, and I saw these long lines going from Heaven Hill all the way across. And that is not the vision that I had. This is supposed to be a really cool afternoon in the park. All this tree, it is park-like setting, but the lines were just crazy. And so I'm like, I got to address this. So this year, we took all of most of the larger distilleries that create the lines, and we moved them into the St. Joseph's Church parking lot.
Okay.
And we're calling it the Bourbon Breezeway now.
Nice.
And anybody if you think about going to a church parking lot, it's not what you want to be doing when it's 90 degrees out.
Right.
So what we're doing this year is we're carpeting the entire parking lot.
Okay.
Putting turf down. It'll look more like Kentucky Derby or a PGA event. And then putting in the middle of the parking lot a humongous big sunshade structure so people can get a break from the sun while they're waiting in line. And then the distilleries, Heaven Hill, Maker's Mark, the Bardstown Bourbon Company, Green River Group, and then Preservation will all be there, and it will help them manage their lines.
Okay.
And it won't take away from the vibe on the main lawn or down in the craft area. So they were very good about helping us. Like, they knew there was a problem.
Right.
And what was causing this is 2 years ago, the laws changed in Kentucky to where the distilleries can sell bottles.
Yep.
The first 2 or 3 years it was sampling, which was cool, but now the bottle sales, and people are coming in buying bottles they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so there's a high demand. It's like a feeding frenzy that first hour. So they were part of the solution, but that was probably our number one operational initiative that we said we got to fix this, even if I'm the only one that thinks, because people in line were mostly happy.
Yeah.
The distilleries, of course, are ecstatic that they're selling, but it just wasn't the event that we created. So we worked on that, but they've been all very helpful. And so that's probably the biggest thing that you'll notice is that the Bourbon Breezeway part of the venue. So I know we're going to talk later about some other, like what's new, and I'll come back to that. But that really is the thing, is if anybody was here and saw the lines and were turned off by it, we're doing our best to address that.
Well, and it was crazy. So I was here last year and I had a VIP ticket. So I got a little bit, like an hour early, I got to come in. And the chaos when general admission was able to flood in, people were literally running to get to the first place in line. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I think I even took a video because it was just like, good Lord, this is nuts. But people are dedicated, because you're right. People don't have the opportunity to buy a lot of the bottles that are available at the Bourbon Festival. And a lot of people try really hard to get their ticket so that they can come for that reason.
Right.
But there's a lot more to the Bourbon Festival than just standing in line for a bottle, like you were saying. That's not the vision. That's just a perk. So let's talk a little bit about the other benefits of the Bourbon Festival. I mean, all of the different pours that you get to try from the different distilleries. You guys have like a craft side. Let's dive into just like a quick overview of what the festival is for people who might have tickets but have never been.
And thank you. And that vision hasn't changed. When I used to produce craft beer festivals, and we'd have all the breweries that people expected to see, but then we created this homebrew island, and it was either the home brewers or the small crafters. And I saw every time we'd open the gates with an air horn, and they would run like what you're describing, and they would run past all the bigger brands and go in because they wanted to find something new. And that was just for sampling. We didn't. So when I brought that concept here, when you come in the gate, all the craft distilleries are to the right, and to the left are the brands that you know. And I've watched people for I'm assuming 5 years, it'll hold true. They come in and they've kind of got their battle plan. They've got their little map, but most of them peel off and go down into the craft area. Number one, it's probably the coolest part of the property, just with the trees and the main stages there and the music and everything. The VIP venue is there. But they peel off. They know that Beam and Four Roses and Heaven Hill and Maker, they're all here.
Right.
We'll get to them. It's 3 days, but they want to go down and try to find something new. So that I'm always rewarded. Like I get 3 days a year to enjoy it, and then I got 361 and a half days to plan it and try to recreate it again. But that's the one thing that's probably been consistent since the main entrance has changed. It used to be at the end of in front of the building, and it's moved just because of the volume. But otherwise, the vibe that we've tried to create has been pretty much the same.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good vibe. Like whenever you come in, it's super casual. Like you were saying, you can walk around. There's a ton of cocktails. There's a ton of different like smaller options that you can go to. And just to highlight Angel's Envy again, they always have such a great setup. They always have this little cocktail area where you can kind of garnish your own cocktail.
Just wait.
I'm like, no pressure, but hopefully they bring that back this year.
Wait till you see this year.
So much fun.
We're building them a one-of-a-kind structure. They'll be the only distillery on the property that has this fully built in, almost like a VIP, all glass, air conditioned. I mean, they're stepping it up. Yeah.
Well, and the distilleries do such a good job, like especially like the larger distilleries just have this full setup. They have like sometimes couches and like different things in their photo opportunities. A lot of times you're going to run into master distillers or founders or just overall industry icons, you know? So it's a really cool experience. If you love bourbon, I mean, there's no better place to experience bourbon than in Bardstown, and then specifically during the Bourbon Festival. So,
well, I'm glad you brought that part up, because the thing that differentiates us from any other similar festival in the world is that we have 65 different brands, and the master distiller, the master blender, the people who actually make it are here.
Right.
And it wasn't always like that. And now they know that engagement, that talking to the consumer, probably the first thing that master distillers told me that they were surprised about when they became was the autographs and the fame. And so these guys all walk around out with their little paint markers because they're signing bottles. And so that's a chance that you get. It's kind of like being backstage at Lollapalooza, because you get front of house, you get the whole experience, but you can peel that curtain back and get access. And that's really what Stacy and I have been working on, is that engagement. So last year we started a People's Choice Award for the various different levels of distilleries on what are you doing to engage, not just pouring a sample in a little plastic shot glass and pushing them on. What are you doing to hold them, bring them in, engage? So this year we've given everybody a little extra space on the main lawn to do other things. Like, you know, Angel's Envy has the ring toss, and, you know, some of these games that, you know, a couple of people had like the bags, you know, and you're here all day, and we don't want people just drinking back to back to back. So we're doing things to break it up. you mentioned the lines. That's the one thing that I don't want to have a problem here. And that's what bothered me so much last year is we've all been to festivals where you stand in line all day.
Right.
I went to a music festival a couple years ago that I stood in line all day for water and the restroom and food and never got to see a band.
Right.
I mean, I'm not even kidding. And it's like,
that's
that is
a terrible
not,
experience.
we don't want lines. So we limit the number of tickets. I think we maybe, since the first year in 2021 to now, we may have added 200 VIPs, but the first year VIP was here on this floor. And then we went and built this huge structure. So we added, but we don't want people even crowded in there. And the main lawn, I think maybe we've added 800 tickets to the overall number of tickets that are available. And people say, well, why don't you do more? You can make more money. And we sold out. I'm like, well, that's not the objective.
Right.
I mean, we exist to create this festival. And so as long as we have money to pay the bills and get to the next year, I mean, that really is our core mission, is just to produce this event. So we don't need to overcrowd and ruin everyone's experience.
Which I appreciate as someone who loves attending.
Thank you.
And I think that's important because you're right. Like, I've been to a lot of different experiences where you get VIP, right? And it's more money. So you expect something that's a little bit more intimate, more luxury. And here you get that, but you don't have all the crowds. Right. It's a lot easier to just kind of wander in and out.
Right.
And that's another thing that I love is whenever you're at the festival, you can come into the festival, you can hang out and do what you need. There's food, there's a lot of different activities, but you can actually leave for a little while and like exit the festival, go explore downtown, because we're just 2 blocks away from downtown.
Go
Bardstown.
shop. If you want to sit down in a restaurant, maybe you don't want to eat out of a food truck. Yeah, absolutely. Or go to distillery tours.
Businesses, right?
You know, the distillery tours and
there's a lot of events going on in town whenever all these people are here, and then you can come back. So it's not like you're stuck in staying there and you have to like have all of these things and you have to plan it out that way. It's literally this leisurely ability to come and go.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
You can. And
awesome.
Again, I'm a lifelong learner. This is probably my 35th or 36th year, aging myself here, of being involved with running a festival of some sort, either as a volunteer or later career. There was an event in Labor Day weekend in Denver called Taste of Colorado. It's a longer name, but I watched there. I went out there, friends of mine were working, and I went and I saw, like, in the middle of the afternoon, the stages were up and the food was going. And then like at 4:00, they shut everything down, pushed everybody out. The stage cover went down. And then like at 8:00, they'd reopen. But for those 4 hours, they're pushing the people. You could breathe them in, give them a cool experience, and then push them out into the community. So the downtown, and so bring them in and we push them out. We don't bring them back in later. But when we're done at 6, you see the restaurants and the shops, the distilleries now. The distillery tours during the traditional hours have been sold out a year in advance. But now a lot of them are doing evening events that allows them to bring additional people in and give them a cool experience that isn't just here.
Absolutely.
You know, we get them, everybody goes off, and I think that helps with the business community. You know, we weren't very popular the first year when we made these changes, but now that they see the plan working, I see the business owners are the first ones sometimes to jump in and support what we're doing.
Well, because it does. You're bringing in a lot of people who want that experience. And there's no better, like I said, there's no better place to experience bourbon than in Bardstown.
The bourbon capital of the world.
The bourbon capital of the world. Trademarked by the geniuses that ran this town.
And we use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, Kim Houston will tell stories about 10 years ago, like when David Mandel first came into town and Bill Samuels, Maker's Mark, he would say, you do not know that you're in the bourbon capital of the world.
Yeah.
You don't know that this weekend is Bourbon Festival weekend. There's no signs. There's nothing. And look at what's happened over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, hats off to David. He was the one really pushing that. It was constantly in the ear of the city leadership about, if you're going to call yourself, you better look, act, talk, walk
fully
like the bourbon capital of the world.
And we've done such a good job over the last 10 years, just elevating Bardstown as a whole and the bourbon that lives in this community. And so coming here really does feel like an immersion into bourbon culture, which is really, really great.
And you do it year round.
Fully.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I work 4 days a year. Yeah. That's the joke.
No, you
but
don't.
No, I've got one time that we
see you all the time
we
working.
put Bardstown on the map.
Yeah.
Right. We have one time to really showcase. You know, and the community businesses were actually mad at me the first year because I didn't come around with my clipboard to collect the sponsor dollars. And I said, you've supported this event for 30 years. Now let us do it. And all you do is stock up your shelves, make sure you got staff, and be ready to go. This, just like Louisville, Churchill Downs Derby isn't for Louisville. It's for the
Right.
world, and it's a chance for Louisville. It's the same thing we're doing here. At least
And
that's the way
Louisville
we
makes
approach
sure
it.
that the people who come have the most amazing experience.
Correct.
I worked in downtown Louisville for many years during Derby, and it was something that like the entire city shuts down for anything that's not related to Derby, and they
Right.
make sure that everything is catered
right.
to. And we essentially do the same thing here for Bourbon Festival.
And it's just as challenging to get hotel rooms around Bourbon Festival. It's just smaller.
so true. Luckily, we have more and more hotels
Yeah,
going
that's
up. We
exciting.
have great Airbnbs, which
Yeah.
I'm sure are probably already booked. But
Yeah.
even if you stay in Louisville, I mean, there's a lot of different things to do. Elizabethtown, Springfield. There's a lot of areas around here that are really great for that. So let's dive into the new events and the type of tickets, because you guys have some additional tickets available for sale, not for the festival. Just to be clear, sorry if I'm burning anybody's
You already have to have a
dreams right
ticket to
now.
get the upgrades.
So yeah, you do have to have a ticket, but if you have a ticket, there's some additional experiences that you can do. So this is different than what you all have done in the past. So let's talk about that a little bit more too.
Yeah, so we've, since day one, working with Steve Coombs on program development, we've always known it's more than just sampling. This is fun. Buying a bottle is fun. But what do you do with it? You're cooking.
Right.
Or you're learning how to make really good cocktails. And so the festival's always been a little bit about that, but not like classroom where you sit and you listen to an instructor.
Right.
And you don't get to...
You don't want to be lectured at.
Correct.
You want to engage with
Correct.
it and
So
understand it.
we've had chefs, and this room we're sitting in for the last couple of years has been that premium education classroom, because it's easier to bring 25, 30 people in. But the chefs that are in here are actually preparing the food that the people sitting in the room get a chance to eat. And then the cocktails, same thing. You actually get a chance to either make your own, experiment, like science class, lab. So but the problem, and at the same time, we had the great tent, which was the premium distillery experiences. So Beam would do an early afternoon on Friday, then Bardstown Bourbon Company would do later on Friday, then two on Saturday, then one on Sunday with Michter's. But those were only allowing us to have about 500 or 600 people, and they were sit down, hour and a half long sessions, and turning that over. And again, we have 7,000 people here, and we're only able to touch 700 of them during. So we've retooled it to where the great tent is going to be larger. It's going to be air conditioned, all enclosed, and there'll be 3 suites. Okay. So the first suite will be a culinary focus. The second one will be cocktail, and then the third suite is going to be kind of a meet and greet. So we're planning events during the weekend to where you can meet and greet up close and have a little bit more contact with the master distillers or whatever.
Awesome.
And so that's really the only thing that's left for ticketing right now, and it's kind of new. Again, we're merging 2 older programs, and we're trying to get that started. But so if you already have a ticket, doesn't matter what ticket level you have, you can go into the Tixar website and upgrade and buy your premium experiences. And I think just because of the newness, and instead of having 5 to work with, we have 20. So that just means we got to work a little harder to sell those 20 experiences.
But that's the goal. You want to be able to have more people enjoy those experiences while they're here, rather than only selling that limited amount. It's more open to everyone. Right. And then you guys also have some free options for those. So most of the tickets that you mentioned do cost additional money. And again, you do have to already have a ticket to Bourbon Festival in order to secure one of those. But you guys also have some really fun free educations on the main stage, correct? So
the Bourbon 30 show.
Yeah.
If anybody watches Seinfeld, I was inspired by the episode with Kramer when he found the Mike Douglas or Phil Donahue, whatever, the set in the dumpster and set it up in his apartment. So it started off kind of like that, or Between Two Ferns. With Steve Coombs, but we actually built the set to look like Johnny Carson sitting at his desk with the 2 guest chairs next to him, and had that kind of a vibe. So from the bottom of the hour, so like say 12:30 to 1 is the Bourbon 30 show, and then from 1 to 1:30 is the Aviation Project, which is one of the most amazing bands. They only play together once a year at the festival, but they're like our house band, and they're extremely talented. So if you don't really want to sit there and listen to a talk show format, just wait a couple of minutes and then you'll have a half hour of music. Yeah. But yeah, so that, I think we had 14 or 16 different free sessions, and it's the same thing as the other events. We're meeting and talking to the master distillers, and we're talking to people that started their own distillery and what went into building it, and all the, the things that they didn't expect to find. But then you also talk, we had a cigar, how to do bourbon and cigar pairings a couple of years ago. And, again, trying to show people how you can incorporate the liquid into your entertaining. Right. Everybody wants to be a better host and make a better cocktail or figure out a way to get wow reviews from your your steak or whatever, you made some kind of a bourbon sauce with it or whatever. So we're always cognizant, and we're also very aware that while a lot of people that come here are bourbon enthusiasts, 85% come from outside of Kentucky, but we also know there's some people that are just experiencing it for the first time. Right. So we're always very, like me, I had 5 bottles in my collection when I started this job.
Yeah.
And they're all Woodford Reserve Kentucky Derby bottles. Oh, 400, 3 different locations. But it was intimidating, or it could have been intimidating, that you think you're coming here. And the bourbon community is very social, and they love, and they won't come in and make you feel like you don't know. They will embrace you and help you get up to speed. And I know more now. I mean, I don't think I learned much, but if you listen to me now versus December of 2019, before I came in, I mean, I really do know more about the process and the sensory and what I'm, so I try to take that same excitement and make sure our programs are, it's up to par, that if you're, the top enthusiasts that maybe you think you know more about what goes into the bottle than the people that are doing it, which they're out there, or you're just literally coming over from craft beer, or, you've been in wine or whatever, and you want to give bourbon a shot. Yeah. Unlike every other trend starts on the coasts, New York and LA, and it finds its way to Kentucky. We started here, and we're still pushing. There's still people on the coast that are discovering bourbon and coming here. And so we're always mindful of that. So there's enough cool, nerdy things to keep people that are really into that entertained, but there's also really kind of just a fun afternoon in the park and come in and meet some friends. And I know groups that only see each other once a year here, so it's like a big reunion. So
I've made so many friends over the years at the Bourbon Festival, so I'm excited. Well, yeah, obviously, but people that just come in for the Bourbon Festival, and I've actually ended up doing barrel picks with them after the fact, and met them halfway between here and Columbus, Ohio, and tried to venture out to connect with them in other ways, but their favorite thing is always coming back to Bardstown. Yeah. So it's really, really cool. I always get excited, that first day of the Bourbon Festival when I walk in and I just kind of wander around and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. So it really is this community, but it doesn't matter if you've never been before, if you have been coming for 30 years. Right. You're automatically in.
And there are people that have come every year, and there were certain things about the old festival that people liked. I mean, it was you had the big stage and the music and the beer garden and the car show and the balloon glow, but all of those things, very little of it had anything to do with bourbon. And the distilleries told us, because when we started this thing 34 years ago, bourbon you could hardly give it away. Yeah. And the Fred Knows of the world, those guys have been around. You couldn't give it away. Yeah. And now that it's changed, so I mean, I think that's one of the things that we had to look at is if it doesn't have if it doesn't have some connection to either the liquid, the people who make it, or the people who are enjoying it, then it's got to go. It's nice. There's 51 other weekends of the year that you can do your car shows and that kind of stuff. But we really wanted to focus, and we tell the distilleries every year, every time I talk to them, it is about you. Mm-hmm. And all due respect to anybody that's watching, anybody that comes to the festival and buys a ticket, thank you. But you're always going to be the second priority under making sure these distilleries. Because if they don't feel the love, they will find something shinier and sexier to go to. Yeah. As long as we put them first, they win. Everybody coming to the festival wins, and ultimately we win. And that's a pretty simple philosophy there. Just keep the distilleries happy, and everybody else, it goes down from there.
I think that's a great culture to really promote too, because the distilleries do deserve to be highlighted, right? That's the reason everyone's here. So I don't think there's anything wrong with making sure they're happy and making sure that they're coming in and they're able to set up a comfortable situation for themselves while they're here. And then it brings in, master distillers and founders and icons to be able to go out and socialize. And they really do.
I'm so humbled by that.
I love it.
I mean, I'm not like a fanboy, but I've had 2 actual drinks during the festival in 5 years. Yeah. One of them was because Fred No waved me over, and how are you going to tell Fred No that you don't want to have a drink with him? You're not going to. No. So, I mean, Fred and Freddie were standing there, and I had a very, very nice pour with them, but I remember that. That's just one of those things burned him. I mean, his face is on the labels on the bottles, for God's sakes, But yeah.
Like I said, iconic. Yeah. Genuinely iconic people that you get to run into.
And they sit out there. It was Freddie's birthday a couple years ago, Freddie No, and they're sitting out there carving, their ham and just handing it out to people. And it's like, that's Fred No and Freddie No sitting there, or, you get Denny and Jane, those, I mean, it's one thing to run into them in the restaurants and stuff, but to actually go to an event, especially as a first timer, and realize that all the people that you know are here. So.
Well, and I think that's great. And I think that's another really good point, right? So even if you didn't get tickets to the festival, I know they really sold out quickly. You guys did a really good job promoting that and making sure that you fully maxed it out as much as you could, like you said, to comfortability. But I think even if you're not able to attend the Bourbon Festival, just coming to town during that time, like there's a lot of different local things that are popping up. There's different tasting events that pop up. There's different just everywhere. The distilleries do a lot of different things on site and on their location. So even if you can't buy a ticket to the festival, which hopefully you got one, and hopefully you're here to find out more about it, which is why we're here. Yeah. But if not, I think still coming to town and just enjoying that atmosphere.
And we want to always make sure there's accessibility. So the food trucks and the marketplace vendors, new this year, the marketplace vendors will be out on Flagey. So like during arts and crafts. So you don't need a ticket to shop the bourbon marketplace, and you don't need a ticket to the food trucks. And the World Championship Bourbon Barrel Relays on Saturday of the festival. And that's a free admission. They had to move it because there's some construction, but they're across town. But there's still a lot of things to do, plus all the distillery tours, and there's plenty of reason to come into town.
I agree. Anything else you want to add? Well, I do want to add one thing, because I will say you've talked about some people as we went through this interview. I know that you have an amazing staff. They do a really, really great job. Not to put you on the spot, but if you want to highlight a couple of staff members, I think that's a really great thing. Yeah. I'll personally highlight Stacey Pritchard. I know she's in the back office still working hard right now. Yeah. At Whiskey Godmother on Instagram, if you want to give her a follow. It's a very entertaining Instagram profile. Anybody else that you want to highlight or point out?
I always say we're a small but mighty team. There's actually two of us that are full-time, like actual staff. And then we work with an amazing group of people that are independent, contractors that are at the top of their game. I mean, the security director, Ross, I worked with him at Churchill Downs. You get Steve Coombs and does all of our programming. Yep. Josh Hafer's kind of taking the lead on the Great Tent. We've got an excellent PR firm. Actually, they were just, Estes PR, they were just named the #1 PR agency in the world for the spirits industry. So, we've got this team, some of the best creative thinkers, the designers that do all of our graphics and things. And it's different than my first year when it was basically me. Yeah. We had other, right? Well, better, but also because the event has grown, even though the number of people haven't grown, the expectations have grown. Yeah. And it's always short-lived when you get a chance to celebrate at the end of a festival, and inevitably we kind of get into that depression mode, but then you get right back into it because you can't wait to plan the next year. But then in December, it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to fix? We're always looking for something to do better. That's not saying that we do anything wrong, but there's always something that we can make better, do better. So it is, people ask me what I do the rest of the year. This is what I do. Not this, but some of that too.
A little bit of that.
Yeah, a little bit of that. But no, we work all year round with this event. There is no magic wand that you wave to, to make it happen.
And this is huge. I know Stacey goes out and she picks all the barrels that are featured and the bottles that you're able to obtain. The Bourbon Festival picks. That's a huge part of what she does. And you are just constantly promoting and going out and doing interviews like this one, right? Yeah. And so that's a small team.
Is this an interview? I thought it was just two friends sitting having
fascinating pours with fascinating people. So
awesome.
I absolutely love that you came on for this with me.
Absolutely.
I think we'll wrap up.
Long overdue.
I agree. I'm always ready. So you can call me any Wednesday at 3 or any other time. I'll drop everything and just come and have a drink with you, or without the camera.
But you talked about the army of people. I just went in front of the city council last night to get all of our permits and street closures, and it was a unanimous vote. And I always have a chance to address everybody, the mayor. And I said, literally, the mayor, every council member, every department head, every city manager and their team does everything they can for us on that weekend. And it's so, that's point blank. It doesn't matter how good of a team, a staff you might have, if you don't have the city behind it and 100% committed to making this work, then it would be all for naught. So as far as calling someone out, if you know anybody that's an elected official in Bardstown, Nelson County, they're all really much behind what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So
well, that's awesome.
I get to have the fun.
Well, I get to have the fun because I just get to attend. I don't have to plan.
That's true. Well, thank you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you letting me be here. I might have another glass after we turn the camera off, but this has been a blast and great information. I think anybody who can't make it this year, definitely hang in there and try to get a ticket next year. And even if you can't make it, come join us in Bardstown. We're very friendly here. Like you said, the entire city is behind this festival. So regardless of whether or not you're in the festival or hanging out with the locals outside, I think it's a really, really great opportunity to experience bourbon in a completely unique way. So
I agree.
Until next time, I think
it's a pilgrimage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bucket list
item for sure.
For sure.
All right. Thank you guys again,
Thank
and
you.
cheers.